Este útil video evadirá todas tus preguntas. Todos a la pantalla.
¿Está diciendo que Dios es mentiroso? Una comparación imparcial de la evolución y el creacionismo. Aquí tenemos dos libros. Uno, la Biblia. Fue escrita por nuestro Señor. El otro, El origen de las especies. Fue escrito por un borracho cobarde llamado Charles Darwin.
Es una calumnia. Darwin fue una de las mentes más grandes del mundo. ¿Y por qué se besuquea con Satanás?
Darwin's theory argued that all species descended from a common ancestor by means of little cumulative changes in long periods of time. Darwin could advance no sound evidence to prove this claim. Indeed, he was himself aware of the great many facts that invalidated his theory. He admitted these in his book in a chapter entitled Difficulties on Theory. Darwin's hope was that these difficulties would be overcome by new scientific discoveries. But in fact, advances in science would refute Darwin's claims one by one.
Modern science and technology, which have made increasingly rapid advances since the beginning of the 20th century, have revealed that there is no scientific basis at all to the theory of evolution. All branches of science concerned with the subject, microbiology, biomathematics, cell biology, biochemistry, genetics, anatomy, physiology, anthropology, and paleontology, have produced countless proofs demolishing the theory of evolution.
said that a fellow by the name of Darwin and another fellow by the name of Thomas Henry Huxley would be used by the spirits because in their childhood they had been hypnotized by medical doctors, and they figured that they would be real good subjects to lead the people into this belief that they had, that Satan wanted to bring into people's lives. Because after the great general struggle, it was decided that Satan would tutor Charles Darwin personally in setting up the principles of his theories of evolution. He was tutored by Lucifer himself, fallen Lucifer. And at that time, it was understood, Satan and his spirit counselors understood, that if a person was led to believe in the theory of evolution, it would, in his life, destroy completely the creation week of the Bible, the fall of man, and the plan of redemption. It would do away with it.
In one fell swoop.
Yeah. Now, he made a unique statement. He said that according to the spirits, anyone that teaches a theory of evolution is considered to be a minister of a great religious system. See, they call it the religious system, the theory of evolution, because it is a system of schooling people and getting them to disqualify themselves from being members of Christ's kingdom. And he said that every teacher of that theory is recognized by the spirits as a person of great value and receives a very special unction from Satan himself, giving great power to induce spiritual blindness, to convince and convert. 3 capacities.
30 some odd major groups of animals appear recognizable and all together suddenly on the scene. This is completely contrary to Darwin's theory. This is completely contrary to Darwin's theory. This is completely contrary to Darwin's theory.
Because Darwin wrote in The Origin of Species, if numerous species belonging to the same genera or families have really started into life all at once, the fact would be fatal to the theory of descent with slow modification through natural selection. Despite all these facts, these skulls are still presented to the public through the media and in some evolutionist textbooks as if they were scientific facts. In many countries, an important part of the society supposes that evolution is a proven fact. A great deal of this so-called evidence of evolution, much of which has been dismissed by evolutionists themselves, is still presented to school children in their textbooks, where they are depicted as the ancestors of man.
I think it's important to understand that most of the educational programs that are implemented in the United States stem from the National Education Association. And the NEA was actually founded by John D. Rockefeller.
You can also symbolize the structure as a spider's web, with a spider in the center and different strands, different organizations, different secret societies. The closer to the spider you are, the more elite the secret society. The further out from it you are, you start to hit the organizations that directly interact with mainstream society. Somewhere here might be the Bilderberg Group, further out might be the Council on Foreign Relations and stuff like that, which are acknowledged to exist in America. But the real deal is here, which just dictates the policy down the spider's web.
If you can look at Darwin as a theory, it is a theory that should be taught in our schools. But it is just a theory. However, in our society, in our culture, and in this nation, it has been accepted as fact, and it has been enforced in the schools. We are forced to look at one viewpoint, and that is Darwin's theory of human development out of lower species, and neglect others. And it is illegal in many places to even propose that there may be a different a viewpoint here, that we may be creatures of a sovereign God.
It is now Darwin's theory of evolution that is protected by law, with all other views being excluded. Naturalistic evolution has been enshrined in the nation's public schools as the only acceptable theory of human origins. It is protected by the courts to such a degree that one judge ruled that a school district in Dover, Pennsylvania could not even inform students that there were scientific challenges to evolution or direct them to critiques of the theory.
Unfortunately, what happens in schools nowadays, and there are many reasons for this, coming from the way they're structured, the way a teacher sees his position and all that, what a student is a huge bag in which you have to dump all the knowledge. No. What you should do is train that student to think.
They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right.
If you sat around a table and you said, right, what we need to do is we need to find some way of getting young people to see the world the way we want them to see it, so that by the time they become adults, they are completely following the reality we want them to believe in. Someone might say, well, they might not have it like, but you know the ideal thing? What we do is we have a system where we take children away from their parents at least 5 days a week, all day, from about the age of 4 and 5, and we have control of their minds until they're about 17, 18. That would be ideal. Well, of course, that's what happens. It's called the education system. Yes. And it's indoctrination.
And John D. Rockefeller, I think, voiced the beliefs of this ruling elite that wants to try to homogenize our education system when he was quoted as saying, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. So I think the education system is not only pushing people into a socialized version of government, but also dumbing the individual down to the point to where he'll be a good worker in the factory, or he'll be a good worker in Silicon Valley. He may know a lot about but he is not going to have a classic education that would allow him to take all of the facets of the culture and the society and put it together and really form an intelligent opinion as to what's really going on and what might be in the best interest of the individual.
The brain is two halves of the brain. There's the right brain and there's the left brain, and they have very, very different roles to play, especially in personality. Between them is this bridge called the corpus callosum, which bridges the information, again, information between the two. Now, this is another picture that Neil Haig did for me recently, symbolically looking at what the right brain and the left brain do. The right brain is out there. It's creativity. It's inspiration. It's the maverick. It's the connection to all that is. It's the greater awareness. And the left brain is about structure. It sees things in parts, not as wholes. It wants things to be structured. It's about language. And it's about organization in a physical way. It's about being what we call, though often that's not what it is, rational thinking. And both sides of the brain are necessary. If you get a right brain person, we've all met them, they're fantastically creative, but they're out on another cloud. There's nothing going on down here. But you get a really imprisoned left brain person, they can't see the connections with anything. They're here. Boom, boom. And this is the target. The left brain. The soldiers on the door. This is a key to understanding this conspiracy. The whole of society is structured to turn people into left-brain prisoners who experience reality through that version of perception. Apartness, division, I am Charlie Smith. I must jump over everybody. To succeed, I must be a success. People must say you're successful. That's my identity, that's my sense of self. And so what they do, I mean, look at the system. If you want to progress within the system, this left-brain society we live in, then you have to be very, very good at exams. You go to school, you pass exams. And what are you doing in exams? You're taking information given to you, you're putting it in the left brain, you're holding it, you're regurgitating it out on an exam paper by telling the system what it's told you to believe. If you're very good at that, you go to university. If you're really good at that, you go to Oxford University or Cambridge or Yale or somewhere, unless you've got a few quid, in which case you go anyway, like George Bush. Anyway. And then you choose your speciality. If you're very, very good at university at passing exams, boom, 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 then you get great degrees, and then you get your speciality, and you go into being a doctor or being a scientist and being even a politician, all these people. And therefore, all these people that are in the positions of power within the institutions that control and dictate the reality and direction of society are all, by the time they get there, fully paid up prisoners of the left-sodding brain. That's why scientists can't get most of the mainstream ones, because they're so in ear. How can they understand concepts of reality in ear? They can't. That's rubbish. I can't see it, taste it, hear it, or feel it, so it can't exist. But it does. No, it can't exist. And I'm a scientist. I'm clever. And so, if you look at society, you'll see more as the months go on. You are looking at a society designed to put the centuries across the entrance to that. We become prisoners, and that prison is the prison of the left brain. That's what it is, essentially.
Since the late 19th century, since the time of Darwin, in fact, in part because of Darwin's writing in The Origin of Species, came to accept a convention, a definition of science that excluded the possibility of design as a scientific explanation. And that convention has a name. It's called methodological naturalism. And it just means that if you're going to be scientific, you must limit yourself to explanations that invoke only natural causes. You can't invoke intelligence as a cause.
When we look at the current evidence, the evidence that keeps coming out in the media, we have to ask ourselves, is there an agenda behind it? And you have to realize these paleoanthropologists, if they're not making finds, they don't get research grants, they don't get their name in the paper, they don't get to publish. Nowadays in science it's publish or perish, and they have to have something, and when you're desperate, you've got to come up with something.
Evolution is presented to grown-ups and taught to the very young as a fact that has been verified and demonstrated for so long that it is a waste of time and even ridiculous to question it.
The only defense left to evolutionists against all these scientific facts is just one thing: propaganda. The baseless scenario of the human evolution is imposed on the public by means of imaginary drawings that appear in evolutionist publications. In these drawings, creatures with hairy bodies and simian features are decked out with overtones of human-like motifs. The given impression is that these half-man, half-ape transitional forms did live once. From time to time, drawings present snapshots from the social life of these creatures are made. These misleading drawings are introduced in a particular sequence to engrave the scenario of the human evolution on the subconscious of society.
If I do not seek to understand what's happening here, then I've got peanuts in my head, peanuts in my head, peanuts in my head, peanuts in my head. When will I wake? When will I wake up? When will I begin to think?
The Illuminati was founded on May 1st, 1776 by Adam Weishaupt, which he described publicly as the highest level of Freemasonry. 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 The highest level of
Freemasonry. Since most Masons never go past the third degree of the Blue Lodge, the rank of Master Mason, the vast majority of them never discover what they're involved in. Now, I realize that in the lower echelons, in the lower degrees, you
you don't realize what's happening. You don't realize what's happening.
Freemasonry has played a part in almost every government ever founded in this world. We're talking about a worldwide fraternal organization that is powerful enough, old enough, and wise enough to operate behind all governments in the world.
This Illuminati is the group of men who control not only all the money on the planet through all the world banks and the Federal Reserve and so on, but they control essentially all the government.
Les Illuminati auraient infiltré les francs-maçons et outre-Atlantique dans une Amérique prospère. Ces derniers ont fait preuve d'une étonnante capacité à infiltrer le gouvernement des États-Unis jusqu'à atteindre le sommet de la pyramide. Jusqu'à atteindre le sommet de la pyramide.
C'est à se demander quel président américain n'était pas franc-maçon.
The ultimate goal of the order, the destruction of all religion, replaced by the worship of reason or humanism.
The project is literally the secularization of the world, to completely strip the world from religious beliefs. And that is why it is called Novus Ordo Seclorum.
Here we have Morals and Dogma, the classic of Freemasonry.
Page 565 in this book. You can look it up. It says that Satan is God.
There can be no doubt that the Scottish Rite form of Freemasonry in America and Britain is controlled by high-ranking 33rd degree Masons who worship Satan or Lucifer as their god.
It is also known that before the appearance of the Dajjal, a group of people will pave the way, setting up a system to prepare the world for his arrival. The forerunners to the Dajjal are none other than the Freemasons. The one eye is one of the ways to recognize the Dajjal. The one eye is the symbol of the Freemasons.
Darwin simply made the theory popular. That's all he did. He didn't really invent the theory of evolution. His grandfather, Erasmus Darwin, wrote a whole book called Zoonomia, where he basically laid out everything Darwin said. And Darwin, his grandson, then stole all of his ideas and never gave credit to Grandpa one time.
They have a plan to give us a new age world global occultic religion.
Aleister Crowley has been called the father of the New Age movement.
The Book of the Law is the Bible of the religion Crowley was endeavoring to found.
Crowley claimed that a demonic spirit he later identified as Satan himself dictated a book to him in 1904 called the Book of the Law. This book lays down a simple code of conduct.
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
This is the message of this age.
And I'm a God, and I'm going to stay a God until you recognize that you're God. And when you recognize you're God, I shall go back into principle and will not appear as a personality.
In his book, Confessions, Crowley claims he was initiated into Freemasonry at the Anglo-Saxon Lodge in Paris.
What I'm about to say is fact. The secret organizations of the world power elite are no longer secret. They have planned and are now leading us into a one-world communist government. One-world communist government. One-world communist
And those people who have been yelling, oh, the UN's going to take over global
Conspiracy
government. Conspiracy theorists. They've been crazy, but now they're right.